Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. And here I am, last day of the week, talking about Ephesians. I finally have gotten to the last chapter. And I want to share not the very last words, though it's somewhat close to the last words, but I want to share these verses from chapter 6 and verse 10, 11, and 12. Okay, 3 verses. Here's what Paul writes. A final word. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. Well, Paul has talked about the armor of God prior to this. You can go back and read it. But what he's saying is the last thing I want to tell you. Have you ever thought about the last thing you want to tell somebody? You ever thought about what your last words might be? What is so important to you that you really want to share it with someone? Before I got sick a couple of years ago, I sat down and wrote a letter to each of my kids. I was going to wait and give it to them later, but then I got so sick I figured, I better give it to them now. Somebody might not remember to give it to them. And it was the last kind of thing I wanted them to hear from me. Well, now that I've lived a couple of years, I guess maybe in 5 or 10 years, I'll write another letter. But Paul's saying here, there's one thing I want you to remember. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. You know, when we talk about power, we talk about force to compel somebody to do something. That's what military power is about. Have more power than the next army so we can defeat them. That's what political power is. Get the right to make the rules so you have to follow, whether you like them or not. That's what parental power is about. Teaching the kids what they can and cannot do. Now, in all respects of power, there's abuse, human power. And as much as I believe our country is I don't want to say it's on the right side of God, but I think it has been many, many times. I think World War II is a clear example that we were on God's side and the Nazis weren't. But there's always been abuses, and there still are. And the reason there are abuses is because we live in a world where sin abounds. And it says here, put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand against the strategies of the devil. Now, whether you believe in a personal devil or not doesn't matter to me. It matters to some people, but not me. I don't know whether there's this one entity called the devil or not. Actually, I don't ever expect to rub elbows with him, so it doesn't matter. But I do know that there are forces of evil. If that emanates from this devil or emanates from something else, doesn't matter. There are forces in the world that try to get me to do things against God. And they're saying, working against you. And it says here that they are powerful forces. Evil is powerful. And giving into it is pretty easy, really. You know, the devil doesn't come up and slap you in the face, says, look at me, I'm the devil, do what I want. Yeah, he's smarter than that. He just sort of subtly sneaks in and nestles up to you and whispers in your ear, hey, I got a better idea. Don't follow God. Do what you want. Or something like that. A lot of marriages fall apart today. And they fall apart for many, many reasons. And I'm certainly not an expert on all of those, but I do know one thing. Every marriage that falls apart, at some place, somewhere, one of the two parties decides not to care about the other one, even though they promised to. They renege on what they said they would do. And I'm sure everybody who does that can make excuses for it. And in those situations, the devil or evil or one is encouraging them something fierce. You see, Paul says we need the protection of the armor of God. You and I need, I'll say it this way, we really need to walk closely with God in our everyday life because we are not strong enough on our own to withstand all the forces that come against us. You're just not. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how important you think you are. Everyone is vulnerable to this attempt to tear you down. So rather than just throw up our hands and say, what can I do? I give up. We put on the armor of God. As again, I said it's in here, and you can read it. And it talks about equipping yourself to walk closely with God. That's the success machine to avoid the evil. And still, the evil is going to get you in something or another, and then we have to react to it. Life is tough. It really is. But it's also easy. And I know that may not make sense to you, but by putting on the armor of God, that allows us to withstand the forces of evil and respond as God wants us to in whatever situation. So whether you are walking closely with the Lord or you're not walking with Him at all, you can do a better job of it. And as you walk closer to God, you find it's easier to walk closer than it is to walk far away. Well, you think about that. You got the whole weekend, and I hope you have a great one. May the blessings of God and His goodness and grace fill your life, your household, your family, and all that you meet. That's what He wants, and that's what I want. If you have a need or a concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back Monday with another new series.